And the mic's up. Possibly. We think so. And it looks like we're alive. For now. Just doing another little paint stream. Actually working on something of mine this time. Oh, well, okay, so the Bone Boys were mine, but I still haven't decided. Probably going to do another one on that one. Do something different. Maybe take a look at the Ivory Host or whatever it is. Might take a look at that. Try that because I don't know, something about the last one I did. I mean, it's good, but I don't know. Probably change that up. Anyway, let's just hop on down here to the paint. Yesterday we finished up we did one of the ogres from the Feast of Bones. I had to look. We're off to a rockin' start. Very professional. So yesterday we did up the Feast of Bones. We did one of the ogres from the Maw tribe. We put a little blood on his trap. Did up his club and all that stuff. So after the stream I went through and touched up his face just a little bit to make that just a little bit better. Put in some teeth, put in his eyeball. Did a little touch up on the skulls just to make those pop a little bit. Like I said, if you're gonna spend some time on a model, spend it in like this little head and shoulders area. That's where it pays off the most. So basically what I'm doing is I'm painting up some stuff for the tournament coming up at Gigabytes 16th of November. Just for the last couple of months I've been playing Slaanesh. This is the Keeper of Secrets that I painted up back when the set first came out. If you've been up there, you've probably seen this. If you've played in the last couple of tournaments, you've probably seen this Joker floating around. I run a 2-keeper list, and I refer to the keepers as Mary Kate. Ashley's over here. So there's that one. Currently working on her sister. Ashley's getting some paint done on her. She's not done yet. You can see there's still white, and her head's like temporarily on, so I can actually get around there and all that fun stuff. Been working on the blend on the back of the cloak and all that fun stuff. Doing all the jewelry. All the teal hasn't gone in yet, but it'll get done today, I think. Maybe. We'll see. But at the last swap meet, One of my buddies bought a big box of sprues, and floating around in that were a couple of models, and dead smack in the middle of it was this old Keeper of Secrets. And I couldn't resist, so I made a deal with him and traded around some models and paid a little bit of money. Did a paid a little bit of money and all that fun stuff, and I think we mostly switched models though. He So I got this old Keeper Secrets. It was on one of the old smaller bases, and it was obviously somebody had been using it for 40k because Slaanesh can go into both games. Um, but this one was obviously because there was a Space Marine head stuck down here on the base. So I redid the base to where it's the same size as Mary Kate and Ashley, and so this is now Elizabeth. That's right, the third Olsen. um, Basically, I did it in case I get to summon something else in, and I don't know if this is ever going to get out on the board, but I've got it just in case I do need it, and so I figured I'd paint it up. Where I went with these guys, this is Druchii Violet that's watered down. This is Caribou Crimson, or Carol Berg, not Caribou. I'm going to call it Caribou every single freaking time, though. It's Crimson. So I figured I'd go with something different on this one. And what we're going to do, as soon as I can grab it, we're going to go with Dragonhof Nightshade. Let's see if I can get it to shine. Nope. Okay, so it's where the other one's purple, the other one's crimson. This one is a dark blue. And yes, in case I need 3 keepers, because if you don't know anything about Slaanesh, I get to summon in stuff. So when my stuff dies or does damage, it gives me what's called depravity points in the game. And depravity points allows me to bring back things. And I think at the end of the first round against Sandy the other night, I had 40-something depravity points. It wasn't good. Well, I mean, it was good for me. It wasn't good for Sandy. And at 40 depravity points, you would have 10 extra, and you could summon back in a keeper. It might be a tad broken, just a little. But they haven't FAQ'd it yet, and we got a big tournament coming up. And I'm going to see if I can actually, win a couple of games in a tournament instead of just, losing 2 and winning 1. That tends to be about how I do it. So we're going to take a little Lamia medium. I just took a couple of brushfuls, threw it in there. If you get this stuff, make sure that you use a clean brush, because if not, you're going to color it. It's the same stuff that they use to make the paint. And it thins the paint out, or the shade, whichever one you want to use. And that's how I get the lighter color on their skin and stuff. Is I take that that main color and wash it down a little bit. So let's see what it looks like down here. Ooh, we might want to put a little bit more in there. I mean, when I say I watered it down, I watered it down. We're going to put a little bit more of that in there, because that's not quite dark enough. There we go. It's real easy to... There we go. Alright, so that's about what I'm looking for. And mainly what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around here on the skin on this. Oops, don't want that much. And I'm almost going to use this like you would use one of the contrast paints. I'm just going to sort of hit it around on the skin. When it's all said and done, I'll go back and make sure that it's where I want it, and I'll give it a little bit of shading for some of the recesses, and I'll put a little extra of this where I want it darker. But for right now, we're just going for that. I don't want the skin to be the full color, but I want it to have a tint. That's basically all I'm doing, is tinting this up. I may not have made enough to do this, but that's an easy fix. We can just add some more. Like I said, I'm just going through, hitting the skin. This isn't one of the primary units that I'd use. This is more that I might summon this sometime during the tournament, so I want some color on him. And sure as shit, I did not make enough. So, like I said, make sure if you're going to use Lamia medium, no Jacob, he is not going green. We're not making a Nurgle. So I'm looking up and I'm seeing that like 16, 17 folks watching this. I believe that's probably the most I've ever had watching it one shot. So thanks everybody. Alright, so we'll go back on here, finish out the leg. And as you can see, as I darken him up, the white balance on the camera is going to shift, and you'll be able to see a couple of the details a little better. I'm not really trying to like get that skin to take on an entirely blue hue. I just want it in the recesses. I want a light blue. And with this step, you can be sloppy with this right now. There's a couple little spots. We'll have to let it dry, but there's a couple little spots that we can work on, and I can show you a couple of different things to do. Like for the cloak, which is, I'll use the same recipe that I use on the big keepers for the cloak on this. We might have got a little thick on that. We'll change up a few things on this one because, I mean, there's no comparison between this one and the new ones. The new ones are absolutely gorgeous models. The detail on them is insane. I'm not even sure how old these models are. I know that this one had an alternate head. There was instead of this goat head that's on here, there was a demon face that you could put on here too. And it had its tongue sticking out. And like that. And but I got the goat head, but compared to the other ones, it's this model is in a different class, I guess. There we go. Just looking for any spot that looks like it was just a, where I want just a little bit more blue. Go up here across that. I don't even know what you'd call that. Looks like the back of the head off of Aliens, but what that's called, I don't know. Yes, very Geiger. And around the lips, just so I don't end up with like a little spot sticking through, because I'll paint the teeth up and everything, but for right now I'm just going to paint over them so I don't end up with something around them shining white through there when I go back and do the teeth. Alright, so here's a question. Do I do the purple robes or do I do the red robes? I think I want the purple. Purple just seems to work for me, and plus I've got a ton of it on my palette anyway, so it's the same technique across the two of them. It just slightly, one I start off with red and the other one I start off with a dark purple. So we're going to start off with Drakenhof Nightshade, which is just a dark purple color. And I'm going to apologize because I'm about to sneeze. That sucked. Sneeze built up and didn't go. Ugh. Alright. Anyway, back to this. Yes, more loincloth, less robe. So down here, this is I didn't pull anything out the pot because this is what's left over from where I was doing my second keeper, Ashley, last night. And so it's been sitting on the wet palette overnight. And when I say it is watered down, it is watered down. Just a little bit over there. Around the edges. Down along the bottom. And same on the opposite side, if I can keep it on the camera. I guess that would be a thing. I don't know if you can see this streaking on here. I mean, like, this stuff is, like I said, it sat on the palette all night, and so it is way watered down. I'll have to go back and give it another coat here in a minute once that starts to dry a little bit to get it to sit down on there, to get the brush strokes and all that stuff out. But we'll do that after we get This little butt flap back here painted. I'm sure that there's some technical term for this, but I refer to it as the butt flap. The back of the loincloth, it is a butt flap. So where I was painting on the Mortec guard the other day, I did that little test model, and I mean it turned out good. I like the green shield and all that, but I'm not sure that I want to do a whole army in that. Not that that paint job is like impossible to do for an entire army. I don't know. I don't know if I want a whole army of that sitting in front of me where I'm staring at them. It's just, I don't know. The more I look at it, the more I like, nah, I need to do something else. And I've been thinking I don't know what they're called in the Bone Reapers, but it's like a faction inside the thing. In Stormcast, they call it Storm Hosts. I'm just trying to reach those little hard to reach spots back in there. Get some paint on them. But there's one called the Ivory Host. And they have, ivory, polished white bone armor. I've been thinking about maybe trying to do that. Before I do an entire army in that, though, of course I'd do like a test one just so I can take a look at it and go, yeah, that's what I want to do. So I was thinking about doing that on here. The only problem is that the thing would have white armor. And as you can see on here, the white balance on this thing sucks. So maybe I would just show real quick how to, I don't know if I could actually get it to show on here what I was doing. I've got a plan. I just don't know if my camera would cooperate. The thing I'm worried about is it would be an hour show of, well, you can't see this, but here's what I'm doing. I mean, look at this. So to my eyes, this is tinted blue, and on the camera, or at least where I'm seeing it, the preview, it almost looks gray. But that's sort of what I get for using the camera. Oop. Hey, watch what you're doing there, Justin. Sort of what I get for using an iPhone to do a live stream, I guess. Alright, that's going down real splotchy. I think... Oh, we actually had a dry bit. So what I know is I'm going to put a wash over this. So it doesn't have to be 100%, but if you've got like a spot where it changes drastically in the tint on the base coat, it's still going to show through that wash. So just make sure that you get that leveled out before you add it in. Alright, so his loincloth and butt flapper down. So I'm going to go back and give him, like on the claws and stuff on this, I just went back with the shade that I used and darken that up. And what I'm going to start doing is he's got these little areas across the whole model where it looks like there's some plating or something. It looks different than the skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give those a second wash, probably a third, maybe a fourth. It depends on how the color acts on this model. But we're just going to run that through those little joint sections, the underskin. I don't know what you want to call it. Whatever you call it. It's going to be dark blue. So like here on his legs, there's a little groove. There's a little groove that goes up and around there. This is how you knock over shade pots. So all those little, just using the shade, running the brush down through there, letting it just drop as much as it can and still stay in that little section. Just letting it drop that stuff in there. Right here, under there. And then for his claw, we're just gonna hit it with that shade, and we'll go back and hit it again because that stuff's gonna pool and run and all kinds of fun stuff. But we're definitely making that claw darker where it comes through. Like I said, this is for a unit that I'm basically painting because I might summon it during a tournament. If I get lucky enough to have 3 keepers on there. I don't run a 3 keeper list, but there are times where you might do enough damage to where you could have 3 keepers on the board, not start off with 3 keepers and end up with 3 keepers on the board. basically this is going against all those nice things that John said about me a couple of weeks ago, where I was playing. So the rules in this game are, I mean, there's no way to get around it. The ones on Slanesh make it very easy for you to just plow stuff in, get it killed, and bring it right back. And a lot of armies don't have an answer for that. I mean, shoot, not a whole lot do. Flesh Eater Courts can go against it pretty good. Ogres the other night did really well against it. It just, in the long haul, it sort of ran out. Orcs, holy crap. So my first game against the new Iron Jaws, yeah. Let's just say it was painful for me. Wasn't anything I could do about it. I didn't know some of the rules for them, and I walked smack into it. But I also brought a list that was strong enough. I'd played Flesh Eater Courts in the first round, and it just came down to who could pull their shenanigans off first. And he double turned me, and that set the tone for the rest of the game. When time was called, I was making a comeback, but I just ran out of time. I didn't have enough time to bring back some of those units that I'd lost early in the game, and it became, I just couldn't keep up with it. So anyway, usually I run lists that, yeah, it's going to be hard to play into, but it's not impossible to beat. When the characters, if you just hit hard and moved fast, it would be okay. If you moved fast and didn't hit hard and came back, it would be fine. But the problem is I do all three. Which works fine for most things. Occasionally there's scenarios that I run into, though, where it gets a little weird. Anyway, there was a discussion going about how to fix Slanesh, and I don't know if it's because sales are good, or they don't see the issue, or maybe there's something coming down the pipe that will make this seem like it's not so broken. That's what I'm worried about. But they're not fixing it. They haven't FAQ'd it. I know that there's like the winter one coming up, and chances are I'm probably going to get a points increase and all that fun stuff, but that's not too surprising. I mean, if you've played this army or played against this army, you cannot argue that keepers shouldn't be more expensive. I mean, you can't. I think they're 360 points a piece right now, and you could probably bump that up another 40 or 50, and I'd still try to run two of them. They're just that good. I mean, if you want to, if it was simply, you know, the points and everything, you'd have folks running Shalaxi Hellbane, which is the named keeper. But you don't see too many of those unless you got a 3-keeper list. Why don't you see them? Because Shalaxi doesn't have excess of violence, which allows this thing to come back and hit twice. And when 80% of non-mirror matches, but the thing is I'd love to see what those lists are. I'd like to see how many of those are 3-keeper lists. My favorite thing is the chariots. They have chariots that go with these. And honestly, I get more work done with those chariots than I do with anything else. I'm just going around and painting all these little ridges and all that fun stuff. A little bit more. Like I said, I'll probably go over this a couple of times to get that darkened up like I want. It takes a couple of coats. That little underbelly. No. All right, I'm not gonna do those because I'm gonna here in a second. I'm gonna go and we're gonna do a blend across those horns to get those to look right. And I don't want to somebody's calling the house phone and I can't see who it is. That's alright. We'll let the voicemail pick it up and I'll call back after the show. So, go there, we go there. All that fun stuff. So basically it's just adding a little bit darker of that blue in there to contrast that. There's on him there's a bunch of gold. I'll try to get to some of that here in just a minute. For right now, we're going to close that up. And I'm going to coat the horns with a little bit of Menoth white highlight. It's sort of an eggshell color. Not sure how well it's going to show on the screen. Yeah, you can see that pretty well. It's not a straight white. It's just off into that eggshell range. And we're just going to get a little bit of water into that to thin it out. And we're back because someone tried to call my cell phone. So we're going to thin out that white. And this is why I didn't put that blue across the horn here yet, because I was just going to come back and paint this white, and it's a whole lot easier to go over that with the blue than it is to do the reverse. So there's a little bead of like, it sort of looks like coins or a necklace or something that's stuck around that horn, so it makes it a little bit harder to get that through there, but not too bad. So how is everyone's Wednesday going? That's not good. Damn, man. So when I started doing I'm not like an expert on rules or anything like that. And so I was like, I'll just stick away from talking about rules and different things on the streams. I'll just stick with the painting. But I figured that a bunch of the folks watching probably play Jaded Sigmar, and everybody seems to have an opinion on that. I figured I'd talk about it just to see if I could get some kind of reaction out of the chat. And nah, not really. All right. So, basically what I did is those horns now are just a slight, like, eggshell white. But then I'm going to take Xandri dust. Everybody's like, why in the hell would you use that on the horns? It's not white. I know it's not white. But that's what I like to use. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to blend that color into the white so it's not such a sharp contrast. It'll it'll change the look of it. So, here's where Justin's probably going to stop talking, because I'm about to do a dirty little 2-brush blend, which means I stick one brush in my mouth, because you want spit on that brush. Sounds weird, but you want it, trust me. And down here at the bottom, we're going to really quickly put that color in. We're going to leave it pretty wet. Then we're going to go over here and we're going to grab up here with that wet brush. And we're going to push down into where we put that color. We're going to let it pick up that color. And where we've wiped our spit, we're going to come up across. Now, if we don't like it, we just wipe it back down. Make sure you got that clean brush. Push it back down. Come back up. Don't forget that ridged part that's really catching that color is going to have we're going to end up with gold, or it's going to end up blue, so it's going to change the way that looks. I'll bring that fade up a little bit right through there. And just, come on, focus. And it blends that color up. Do that a couple of times across it, it looks good. Stick that one back in my mouth. Go underneath here, we'll put that color down. Start up here and work our way down into it. Bring that color back up. Clean that brush off a little bit. Work my way back down. And then come back up. Just smooth that out a little bit. The trick doing this the way that I just did was like top and bottom, is trying to get the fade to match, or the blend to match around. No Tree Lord Ancients for you. Jacob asked if I was going to do any of those. The reason he's asking that is because I still have, he's got 2 Tree Lord Ancients, and over to my left there's a sprue for a 3rd. Push down into that paint and bring it back up where you want it to fade. Now that I got very little on there, I can just sort of use the paint that's on there to sort of, the difference between the bottom and the top, I can sort of blend that together. So, there we go. We end up with that fade going across the horn, so it doesn't look like it's just one pure color. It's getting whiter as it goes up. And then if you want to take a little bit of pure white and you put it there at the tip, it just really makes that bone look pop. The trick of this is making sure that when you put this down, it doesn't have a chance to dry. And this one's going to be tricky because those coins, necklace, whatever you want to call it, are right there at the base of this one. So it doesn't like to go across texture. Much more prefers a flat surface when you try to do this. You can do it, you just got to fight it a little bit. Yep, there we go. And then start bringing that fade up through where you want it to go. Yeah, I didn't think this one through. So this one's going to be a little tricky. I'm basically going to have to take the brush and shoot it down into there and work my way back out. Like I said, didn't really think this through. So let's see if I can do this and actually keep it on camera. So I'm going to put a big glop of that down there. And then starting back here with the spit, work my way back, grab the color, and start slowly working our way out. Clean off that. Work our way back in. And back out. Sorry. Grab the paint, pushing it back and forth. And just bringing it back out toward the tip as it fades out. Now that I've got a really weakened version of that, I can go back. A couple of those little spots where it didn't blend real well, I can sort of tag those a little bit. Right there. Want that a little bit darker. Put the wet paint down. Blend your way out. Some folks will tell you when you're doing this if your brush comes off the model, just to stop and regroup. Depending on I'm sorry about the coughing, folks. Depending on how dark you get it, you may have to do that. I'm keeping it pretty thin through here. So, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule. Yes, Cindy, I really am using spit. You can try it with water. Um, but it doesn't seem to work the same. I don't know what it is, why it works, but it works. And once you've got that going, I mean, why fight it? So that's how you get those horns going. Now, we used Minoth White. It's P3 Minoth White to do the base coat on it. So we can come back at the very tip, just the tip. Yep, I said it. I knew it. It was a joke that had to be made. You can go back up to the top. Man, so I don't know what it is about white, but it's always chunky. Doesn't matter what you do, it's never going to be thin. So, where Minoth White is an eggshell, White Scar is Snow White. All I'm going to do is take just a little bit of that, make sure it's watered down pretty good, because I don't want it to really jump out there. Right up here around the tip of that horn. Just give it a couple of brush strokes. I keep grabbing hold of the base because I've gotten used to holding on to the little pill bottle. But I'm also used to working with plastic miniatures, and this thing is all metal. It's one of the older sculpts. I'm not even sure how old this thing is. So just a little bit at the tip there, and so you get that nice tricolor across the horns. Now, to ruin what we just did, that little ridge right there in the center, I'm going to go back and hit that with the blue. Because remember earlier I said that was going to be blue, but it'd be easier to do this on top of it. Yep, that's a deep breath of I might regret this. But right here where we just did that blend, we're going to take our time. Putting that blue in to where it's just on those little ridges. And we'll have to come back and hit it, we'll let it dry. So this is a shade, and if you don't let it dry, if you keep pushing it too long, it'll start to dry, and you push wet across the top of it, and it'll take the stuff that just dried right off. So, do what you're going to do with it, and then let it dry before you try to mess with it too much. Again, there's that little jewelry right there on it. I can get it on the jewelry. I'm not worried about that because I'll be painting that gold here in just a minute, or here in a little bit. Yep, tongue came out. Right across. Right up to the end of his boop snoot. Like I said, don't go back too fast. You almost saw me do it. Just be patient. Let that dry. Come down here. Get that. Nope, we're off the camera. All right, looking at the time, I'm at an hour and 2 minutes, and he's pretty well along. There's a bunch. Let me see if I can get it in here. So there's a bunch of little details around here that are going to be painted up gold. Like there's little things that hanging off the belt and little pendants and all that stuff that will wash up, that we'll do a gold on. And the gold that I do for these guys, I've done it army wide, is I take radiant platinum from P3. It's an odd silver, and then I mix it with solid gold. There's actually a name for when they mix silver and gold, but I can't think of it. But I do this. I just do 50-50, and it turns. Do. That's where I was doing the gold on Ashley last night. Mixes up. You got to make sure that it mixes up real well. You can see little streaks of the gold in it. You can see little streaks of the silver, but it blends together really well, and it makes for a pretty gold. Not too bright, not too dull. Right in the middle. But I'll finish off that keeper, and there we'll do some basing and some work on those skulls and everything that's underneath there. Do that off camera, and as soon as I get that done up, I'll post it on Instagram. Right there. That's the Instagram, LlamaJuice75. It's got a good chunk of the models that I've done, whether they be off this stream or beforehand. There's Infinity models on there and everything. Go check it out. If you like the ones that I've done, there's some more on there that you haven't seen off the streams. If you want to see probably a higher res version of this, so you can actually see some of the details on whatever model I'm working on, go over here to YouTube. Llama Juice. I record these while I'm doing them, so unless I forget, like I did with Ultron, after we get done with this, I go back over and post it on the YouTube. It's usually up within a half hour or so of me doing the show. So Eventually, I'll probably do something different for that, and eventually, I'm gonna probably do like a longer version where I've got some music playing and stuff like that, and go over to Twitch or somewhere along, something Twitch like, where I got music playing in the background and I'm not constantly just having to fill the silence. Uh, if you got any recommendations on Twitch or whichever one I should do, shoot me a message, leave me a comment, whatever you think. Thanks for tuning in. That, like I said, at one point today, I saw 20 viewers. That's the most that I've ever had. So, thanks everybody for taking a look at the video. I know that I probably stutter a lot and everything, but I'm working on it. And thanks for checking in. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good one, and go paint something.